Hello and welcome to another guide on City Skylines. This time we will have a look at how you can make your city look more realistic, but in the vanilla version of the game. So this guide won't cover mods or extensive propping. There are other videos out there which show both topics in great detail. I'll leave some links in the description. But in this guide I will show you how I tend to do it in the vanilla version of the game. And I'm pretty sure that you will be surprised of how much of a difference some simple steps can make. Before we start, a quick disclaimer. I'm not by all means a perfectionist, but I still want my cities to look like they could exist in real life. Also, like many others, I don't have the best hardware, so yeah, visual mods mostly just kill my FPS completely. And that's why I wanted to make this guide, to help people in the same situation. For most of the topics shown here, I will be using the map you see in the background currently. It's an altered version of the All Boreal by Mr. Miyagi, for which I will leave a link in the description of course. And while I'm neither finished nor overly proud of the results I can show you now, it showcases some important things that I will be covering, and therefore I will be using this map. City Skylines allows you to create your own map theme. In the theme editor you can change textures and the overall look of a theme, like for example Boreal or Temperature. But there are tons of astonishing map themes in the Steam workshop, which make a difference like night and day. So if you don't want to spend time doing it yourself, just go to the workshop and get one that fits your preference. To illustrate what I mean, I'll show you a direct comparison of the default map theme against the custom map theme. In this case, it's Boreal Coastal from Pudelmo. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm sorry if not. I'll leave a link in the description. So, on the left is the default theme, and on the right the custom one. You can see it changes a lot on the textures, but it gets even better. When we add the color correction, you can see the difference is huge. My problem with the default look is that all buildings look like they have been painted by children. There are colors all over the place. And while I get that the makers of City Skylines wanted to go for that colorful look, in terms of realism, it's not the best thing. So, create your own one or head over to the Steam workshop and get one for yourself. There are tons to choose and the ratings will help you pick the best for your city. Let's have a look on real life cities. To illustrate what I mean, Berlin for example. You do have a town center in which you would have a lot of high density buildings of course. But as you move away, the density very quickly drops until you reach small villages and farming areas. And that's not an European phenomenon. Let's take a look at Orlando to cover the US style of city. The first thing you will notice is the grid-like street layout, which is very common in the US. And again, that's down to person preference what you choose. But you will also see that there is again a town center, and as we move away, we will have a lot of low-density houses again. And the important thing in this illustration is the ratio, and that's easily the most important thing in this guide. There are way more low-density buildings than high-density ones. I know in City Skylines it's tempting to just build high-density to boost your population, especially if you don't play with the Unlock All mod to reach the milestones, but if you aim for a realistic look, try to use low-density zones way more often. To achieve this in City Skylines, there are two things that help you achieve this. First one being the high-rise ban policy. This prevents buildings from reaching the highest level. Another thing are low-density commercials to to create the step from high-rise band, high-density buildings, it took me like 30 takes to say that correctly, to the low-density ones. And that's because low-density commercials can still grow to a respectable size. So they grow bigger as your usual low-density residential zone, but they grow less big than the high-rise band, high-density buildings you would have. So they are perfect for being placed in between those two zones. If you grew up on a hill and had to use the bicycle to get to school, you know that terrain creates a natural barrier. We have a great example of this at the east coast of Italy. Here you can see that the city area spreads on the flat land, and as the terrain gets steeper, the less building you have. That's simply because the cost of building and maintaining a building on a mountain and hills is way higher than on flat lands. Also, they are harder to reach, as you will know if you had to use your bicycle to get to school and back home again. So you always see less buildings the rougher the terrain gets. So now apply that knowledge in city skylines. For example, this hill or mountain here, it creates a natural barrier for the city expansion. So there's no way you can build a building when the terrain is this steep. The same goes for the mountains over here. They create a natural barrier to where the city can't spread any further. So try to use that in your city. If you don't have any maps with hills or mountains, rivers, lakes or any of that, again, go over to the Steam workshop and get the map that you want. Next we have farming and forest. In real life, there's almost no area where you just have flat, unused grass. Usually it's either forest or farming. So, when you build your city, try to add forest and farming at the edges of small villages. To create the farm area, simply place dirt roads, place trees along the roads, and then fill the areas with different kind of bushes to suggest different crops. In order to illustrate what huge difference it makes, I'm gonna mess up my area here and remove all trees. As you can see, it looks lifeless, it looks dead, it looks without any character. So try to use forest and farming in your city building the next time. Last topic for today, streets and public transport. Keep in mind that most streets go from one end of the city to the other straight, and many other roads just connect up to that. Same goes for public transport, just in a bigger scale. Public transport lines usually look like mind maps. You have one big bubble that connects to some smaller bubbles, and you have the smaller bubbles connect to even smaller bubbles, and that's a lot of bubbles. So what I'm trying to say is, you have one main station, a big city, that connects to smaller towns, and those connect to smaller villages. So try to set up your train network that way. It will make a huge difference. But keep in mind that you're best served when you build your train network in a circle, so that trains can go in and out of your train stations more easily. Otherwise, you will create a jam. Alright, that's all for today. I hope it was helpful to some people, or maybe you've learned something new, I don't know. Let me know in the comment sections below. If you have feedback, leave that as well. Just try to be as polite as feedback usually gets, you know. And as always, all the best and see you next time.